Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another session on Zoom and Facebook Live for Division III week. Today, we'll be talking about the student athlete experience. I'm your Director of Athletic Communications at Gettysburg College, Corey Jewett, and joining me today are my esteemed colleagues and a student athlete, of course. We've got Kelly Jones from the Equipment Room, Andy Hughes from the Garthwaite Leadership Center, and Caroline Kostecki from the women's soccer team. Everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. We had a lot of fun yesterday with our chat about academic success, and I'm sure you guys are going to bring it today, and we're going to have a great conversation. So before we get too far into the questions, I just want everybody to take a moment and introduce themselves. So Kelly, we'll start with you.
Sure, Kelly Jones. I'm the athletic equipment manager at Gettysburg College. I've been there for 33 seasons, and I'm missing everybody so much this season.
Andy, how about you? You're working on a solid decade now.
Yeah, that's right. Next year, Corey, will be 10 years at Gettysburg. Loved every moment of it. I even love it virtually. I'll get it how I can. But really excited to be a part of the call. My name's Andy Hughes. I serve as the executive director for the Garthwaite Leadership Center. And a fun fact about myself, actually, I want to do two, if that's okay.
That's fine.
I'm a certainly a student athlete at my alma mater, Spring Hill College. Played soccer there, and that turned me into a big Tottenham Hotspurs fan in the Premier League. I'm a big soccer fan. But non-sport related, my wife and I actually are a big fan of diners, and we've actually visited together 95 different diners, and our goal is 100, so we're almost close, almost there.
Wow. And I'm assuming you punched off the Lincoln Diner fairly early in your tenure at Gettysburg College.
Absolutely. That was a priority.
And Andy, what's that accent? Is that like North Jersey?
Yeah, I wish it was that. No, I'm born in the UK and I've lived in the States for almost 25 years now.
Well, thanks, Andy. Great to have you with us. And of course, Caroline, you actually are from New Jersey. So introduce yourself, please.
I'm Caroline Kostecki. I'm a senior at Gettysburg. Played on the women's soccer team. I was a midfielder. I also was a part of FCA with Kelly Jones. I was a SAIL member as well. And something interesting about myself was last spring I actually got to study abroad in Argentina, and I got to play on the university women's team as well there, which was a really cool experience.
Oh, that is great. As everyone can see, we've got a great panel today to talk about the student-athlete experience. Now, our student-athletes engage in a lot of different activities off of the field, and there's no limit to what they can do. Caroline herself has quite the list, which we'll get into a little bit later, but we're going to start things off with Kelly Jones. And Kelly, you've got a great connection with our student-athletes on the field, off the field. You employ a lot of student workers who are student athletes. You maintain a great connection with our alums, of course, too. And you've seen what they do out there. Talk about some of the experiences you heard from the student athletes and some of the organizations that they take part in.
Sure. Well, the first and foremost, they talk about team first. So they are very proud to be on a Gettysburg College athletic team. And secondly, they like to talk about the Greek life and the sense of community that they get there. Now, most of my students will probably think I don't like Greek life because I hear about the fun activities, but they do great work when service is prompted by duty, and they can make an impact in the community and on this campus. And those are the things that I really like to hear about. I do like to listen to them have fun, but I love hearing about all the changes they make in the community, being part of that Greek organization.
And of course, too, you are an advisor of one of those organizations, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So talk a little bit about that and how you guys stay involved throughout the whole year.
Yeah, we meet. Fellowship of Christian Athletes is a title mostly because what we provide is just a time of fellowship in a safe environment that people can come, some on a faith journey, some not on a faith journey. They just find a very comfortable spot where they could just talk about any issues that might be addressing them, because we do have a confidentiality that pretty much like Vegas. What's said in the room stays in the room. So I think it's a different type of community without the peer pressures of being on a college campus. So, and we do meet weekly every Thursday night, and the numbers have been tremendous this year. And I think everybody has enjoyed it, and everybody's active in it. And that's what's really fun about it. It really gives me hope and enlightenment to see the activity and how these student athletes, and some are not even athletes that come to a college athlete that they're looking for, and they give me hope for every day.
About how many members did you have of FCA this year, would you say?
We would range this year from 12 to 15, sometimes a little bit over 15 members, which is a great size group.
And also we found out last week that it's Student Worker Appreciation Week. And Kelly, I think you and I know better than a lot of people how important our student workers are. We both employ a number of student athletes in our department. They love being around the action. They love interacting with the other teams too. Talk a little bit about what the student workers bring to the table for the equipment room and all the impact they make.
I couldn't do what I do without the student worker. And they are the most critical component of what we do. We have 3 equipment rooms, so they're manning all 3 equipment rooms from 10 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night in some of those rooms. And we couldn't do what we do without them. And I like the sense of the team that we have. We have a community. What I like to picture as a team, we care about each other. And they love the responsibility and the accountability of being able to do the job. They take that responsibility and they run with it, and they want to be leaders, and they have become leaders in the equipment room. And I can't thank them enough for all that they do.
Kelly, how many student workers did you have this year?
32 student workers, and we do everything from game operations to doing everybody's laundry.
Yeah, it's a good crew. I've borrowed a few here and there myself. And it's always fun to swing down to the equipment room and even chat with them and just catch up on life with a lot of them too. A lot of good, great conversations with them.
And that's what they like about it. They like being able to do so many different facets of athletics and seeing everything that it takes to be done. And they're willing to roll up their sleeves and pitch in and help anybody and everybody. So.
Sounds a lot like their supervisor, Kelly.
I learned at a young age, we all had to work together to get it done. My mantra has always been at the college, I work for the student athletes and with everybody else.
Well, Kelly, thank you. We'll swing back to you after we talk to our other members of our panel here, and we're going to kick things over to Andy Hughes. Of course, you've been the director of the GLC for a solid decade now. You've got double figures at Gettysburg now. So, Andy, just to put it out there, what is the GLC? What's the mission of the GLC?
Absolutely, Corey. Let me just say, I really appreciate what Kelly talked about in terms of team philosophy and just how important when we think about leadership at Gettysburg, we would very much think of it in a collaborative lens. And that's really been part of the mission of the GLC since the beginning, right? There's so many leadership opportunities for students at Gettysburg, whether that's on the field or in the classroom or in many other activities. And that tradition is what we've tried to build on at Gettysburg since Bob Garthwaite gave the gift to the college of $1 million to endow the center. It just shows Gettysburg's commitment to leadership development. And what that gift enabled us to do was partner with many campus organizations and campus leaders to create many leadership development opportunities for as many students who are interested in developing their skills. Because ultimately, Corey, our mission is to help students recognize their potential for leadership and their responsibility to serve. And at Gettysburg, we believe everyone has that potential to lead. It exists within them. And we're here to teach them specific competencies that will cultivate their own leadership style in order for them to make a difference in whatever they choose to do at Gettysburg, but even beyond. So that's really at the core of our mission.
And of course, with that mission too, you've worked with a number of student athletes, a number of our teams here. I remember writing that story for the GLC, gosh, it must have been 2012, 2013, about women's soccer and what they did. We were talking the other day about Adrienne Ross and being one of your first mentor leaders. You can explain
leadership mentors. Yeah,
leadership mentors. I completely reversed that. So talk about the interaction between the GLC and athletics as well.
Yeah, well, of course, student athletes have many opportunities to emerge and immerse themselves in leadership development. I've been so impressed by so many coaches at Gettysburg who firmly believe in the importance of leadership development. So even as athletes, they take time with their athletes to talk about leadership theory and leadership books and do different exercises. And it's been really fun working with many coaches over the years to provide those experiences. So we see a number of student athletes involved in our programs. So for example, we offer a year-long leadership certificate program where students get paired with a leadership coach, which is slightly different than an athletic coach, but really someone who's there to empower them to cultivate their leadership ability. And they work together that year to focus on a specific goal that enables them to enact leadership in whatever way that they choose. So we have a number of student athletes who do that. We also work with groups, and any group on campus can come to us to consult and design an experience that helps them address a challenge that they're dealing with or focus on a specific topic. So for example, I mean, we've worked with Caroline and the women's soccer team to help them identify a vision for the season. So, you know, Coach Garrett was really interested in getting team ownership in defining who do we want to be and which direction do we want to go. So we served as facilitators of that program to help them identify what's the vision. And you mentioned the leadership mentor role. We've had a number of student athletes who end up working for the GLC. So it's a paid position where they work about 10 hours a week to actually teach other students leadership skills and facilitate some of those group experiences. At Gettysburg, we firmly believe in the power of peer education, and oftentimes our students can connect with their peers in ways that we as professionals can't do, and certainly a lot higher impact. So when you mentioned Adrienne, who's now Adrienne Heffelfinger, and you know, just a great community leader, still out in Lebanon Valley area. It's students like that who have really built a lot of these programs and contributed so much to the leadership development environment.
Yeah, a lot of great memories of Adrienne Ross. You've had a number of mentors too that I've had direct contact with. I know Ryan Ahern was helping you out too, so shout out to my guy Ryan up in Massachusetts as well. So Andy, you know, student athletes, I asked this question of Bill yesterday in regard from the academic spectrum. They usually possess certain qualities and traits that make them stand out. What are some of those qualities and traits you've noticed in your interactions with student athletes and the teams?
Sure. Yeah, I think with student athletes, being a part of a team, there's lots of opportunities to observe leadership. So certainly from your coach and from perhaps the seniors on the team who typically take a more vocal role. So I think being a part of any sport, even individual sports, can really provide opportunity to observe leadership, and that's a great way to learn. When it comes to traits, Corey, I think you know, that really depends on the person and their upbringing and their specific skill set. So I wouldn't say there's any universal traits, but I think that being involved in a sport, there's a lot of self-leadership that's involved, where you have responsibility to a team or to the sport, and you need to have a certain amount of discipline to practice, to support your team members. And so it's a lot about leading yourself first, and a lot of self-awareness. And I've seen with student athletes, because of the sports and the teams that they're a part of, they tend to be very well versed in that type of discipline and leading themselves. Of course, if you're on a team sport, collaboration is key. How to deal with conflict and engage with people in a productive way. I think there's so much you can learn from working together with a group of people towards a goal. And I find that our student athletes really learn that quickly, and are able to practice those skills and even transfer them outside of the field environment, or the pitch, as I would say.
Yeah, that's great, Andy. And before I let you go, I just got an email from Cindy this morning. You've got some virtual stuff coming up about leadership, if I'm not mistaken, in the next couple of weeks. You want to give a plug to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just to try to do something for our seniors, who I think we all feel a great deal of support to at this moment, right? Having to leave our campus and not have a sense of closure. We at the GLC wanted to provide them with an opportunity to reflect on their leadership experiences and find ways to talk about them in preparation for their career search and their career launch. So we're offering a 3-part webinar series where students will get to interact with alumni of Gettysburg, who can help guide them to identify what are the skills that I've learned from my leadership experiences, and how do I talk about them in a compelling way as I approach my career search. So whether that's on my resume, in an interview, even in networking. And one of our 3rd-part series will be talking about how to find venues to tell your leadership story. So we'll be starting that on Monday, and students can find us on social media to register for that. And Caroline would certainly recommend that you help us spread the word on that.
Well, that's a great segue. As Andy mentioned, you can find the GLC on social media at Gettysburg_GLC. Don't forget about Team EQ too, G-Bird Team EQ out there. Kelly Jones representing on social media, on Twitter and Instagram too. Switching things over to our resident student athlete, Caroline Kostecki. Caroline, I was looking at your bio today and just looking at the list of activities, so I'll just list it out so you don't have to. You've got ADPi, your sorority, FCA, SAC, and SAIL, GLC, and you studied abroad in Argentina while playing women's soccer. And I know you were hurt this past fall, but you played a lot your first 3 seasons too. You know, we've talked about this a couple of times actually this year. You know, how important was it for you to be that involved in so many activities as a student athlete?
Sure. Great question. Well, I think just choosing a D3 school in general, that's the focus. Is I knew committing to Gettysburg, soccer was a part of my life, but that wasn't the only part of my life. And I remember attending an ID clinic before I committed and listening to a player panel and all the players talking about life off the field, all the things they were involved with. And here I was looking at soccer, but I realized it was so much more than that. And I really knew I wanted to be a part of a program that was committed to just being involved in other areas. And I also wanted ways to connect with other student athletes through things like FCA and SAIL, and also non-athletes through things like the GLC, as well as being a member of a sorority as well.
So here's the question, and unfortunately you have 2 people you've worked with in various groups, but what has been your favorite activities to engage in over the last 4 years off the field?
Definitely FCA. Shout out to Kelly. It was honestly, to say, my favorite part of the week was just connecting with other student athletes, others that are in season as well, and just kind of bonding and going through what we're all experiencing at the time, and also students that weren't in season, and just seeing how we could connect and grow our faith, as well as improve the culture around athletics on campus.
So I got to ask, I mean, with soccer, you're looking at, at least 2 hours on the field for practice or a game, in addition to weightlifting, running, workouts. or group meetings, and then you've got the group meetings with your sorority and these other organizations. How do you find the time? How do you balance it all?
Sure. Well, I think what's really important is choosing things you're passionate about, because if you're not going to be into the activities or the clubs, you're not going to find the time. So they were all things that I wasn't just putting in my schedule just to do. I really was excited about FCA. I was excited about SAIL. So making sure that when you come in your first year, you're going to have a lot of opportunities, but choosing things that you really want to pursue and be all in for. I think that was helpful. Also, just being in season already gives you a pretty regimented schedule. I go to practice, had this amount of time to do my homework, and then I have FCA. So that really helped me create the schedule. And I think also being in season, it's really great. You're with your teammates all the time and you're really close, but these opportunities to, connect with other players and non-athletes was huge, just to meet other students on campus.
All good stuff, Caroline. You've had a very holistic experience at a liberal arts institution, to be sure. We're going to come back to you for our final question, but we're going to kick it to Kelly Jones now for this question. So Kelly, you've been here for 3 decades at Gettysburg. Can you single out your favorite moment over the last 30 years? Is that even possible?
Well, I'm going to do one moment this year that I thought was really cool. Caroline's dad came to FCA and spoke to the group, and I thought that was really neat, an example of how we are a family. So I know that the students enjoyed his conversation. So thank you, Caroline. Thanks to TJ. And there have been some great memories in those 3 decades, Corey. Some fun times, some hard times, which are memories as well. But I think I have to point out to, and sorry, anybody, this does not exclude any memory we have shared, but to the 2017 Women's Lacrosse Championship. I wasn't able to be at the first one in 2011 due to a family issue. So being on the field and winning that game over TCNJ, and that was a great memory. Great times to see the expression of how the student athletes, just the joy in their eyes, the looking up in the fan, seeing the fans and everybody that came to support. It was just a great example of what it is to be Gettysburg great, and how everybody just came together to celebrate a tremendous achievement. So that 2017 Women's Lacrosse National Championship game for me. So.
And of course, we got to give a shout out to Brooke Holacek too, who worked for you, and then Steph Colson, who worked for me, but probably spent just as much time in your office hanging out in the massage chair.
Yeah, we've had some great memories with all the team members, and great friendships have formed from it. And like I said, I told you earlier, like just having Neelan's just run and jump in my arms to celebrate. It's just so much fun, so much fun.
Yeah, that was definitely a great group. Nothing better than seeing Steph Colson score that game-winning goal against TCNJ.
Absolutely. Anything against TCNJ.
Andy, switching to you, now that you've got a decade at Gettysburg, you've seen your share of moments, you've had your share of interactions with student athletes and teams. What's some of your favorite moments?
Yeah, well, I think where we are right now, Corey, in this pandemic, I'm thinking about the students from this year in particular, and many of our seniors and juniors who I just miss deeply. So on the GLC team in particular, with our leadership mentors, we have several student athletes, Emily Welk and Savoy Drummond, who, in track and cross country. You mentioned Ryan Ahern, who supports you, or even Garrett Glazer, who supports the men's lacrosse team. I just miss those interactions, seeing them on campus and hearing about how their morning workouts were really tough, and but they're looking forward to go back again tomorrow, or how they're working to lead those teams in some way, dealing with an issue. I really miss those conversations, especially now while we're all doing this remote learning and working life.
And of course, we'll have an opportunity to see Emily and talk to Emily tomorrow. She'll be on our Zoom panel about well-being. So make sure you tune into that at noon.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Andy. And then Caroline, switching to you, 4 years on the soccer pitch. What's your favorite memory out there?
I would have to say my senior season, which is funny because I was actually sidelined, like you had mentioned. I tore my ACL. but coach actually gave me a new leadership role, and I helped coach the team. I broke down film for him and helped the midfielders during halftime, and actually got to lead a couple exercises at practice. And this experience was just really transformative for me as a leader, getting a new role on the team. And what made it especially memorable was making it to NCAAs. I wouldn't have wanted to do it with any other team. So that was a really special way to end my 4 years.
So do you take credit for drawing up that game-winning play in overtime against Johns Hopkins?
Of course.
You told Charlotte to run behind the defense and get in
Yes.
there for the open score?
Definitely. Never forget that.
Job
Yes,
well
you
done,
definitely-
Caroline.
Thank you.
Definitely. Well, that does it for all the questions I had, everybody. So thank you so much for joining us today to talk about the student athlete experience. I think the people at home really got a nice in-depth look at what Gettysburg student athletes do away from the field. And frankly stated, that is a lot, as Caroline can attest to in her outstanding resume as a student athlete. So that does it for us. I'm Corey Jort signing off for Kelly Jones, Andy Hughes, and Caroline Kostecki. Go Bullets.